Right, so I'm super excited about this new playthrough now that Subnautica has ended. But first, go to greenmangaming.com, because it really helps us out. And I noticed you haven't been doing that. And if you don't do that, you're not helping us out. Head down to the description below. Hello, audience! Hunter here. Okay, I'm really excited about this new playthrough that I just picked out. Bit of backstory. The name of the game is World End Economica. This is a game that was written by the man, the myth, the legend, Isuna Hasekura, a man who made his fortune in the Japanese stock market, quit that to become an author, and then used his knowledge to write the legendary light novel series Spice and Wolf. So the man who wrote Spice and Wolf wrote this game. That's all you need to know! It's a visual novel. Alright. Here we go. In the past, people really believed that there was a doorway to an alternate world on the dark side of the moon. No, they did not. This dark side could not be seen from Earth, and it was only a few decades ago that images were successfully taken of it. Not true. Okay, actually technically true. Though then again, all space programs are only a few decades old. As Earth had been visited, mapped, and okay, of all its mysteries and secrets, it was made painfully clear that there were no rabbits on the moon, no traces of aliens, and certainly no pieces of portals to alternate worlds. Hey, according to our signal simulator, guys, we don't know that for sure. Oops. This was perhaps why the journey to the dark side of the moon through the vastness of space was so fascinating for me when my parents took me there as a kid. Mankind had never set foot upon any of the glittering stars that were arrayed before me. When I realized that, I felt a desire to leave my footprints where no had gone before. It wasn't until after I learned more about the world that it dawned on me what a foolhardy dream that was. Hey! That's a good dream, alright? It's still my dream. Fuck you! Regardless, it was something that shook me to the core, so much that I nearly wet my pants. Okay, I wouldn't go that far. Get a hold of yourself, man. Afterwards, everything before me became a stepping stone in my mind towards my dream of setting foot where no one had gone before. Yeah, man! Live that dream. Go with Elon Musk to Mars. We're gonna establish a Marsica. With our capital, Musktown, a Marsica. I had no time to waste. If I didn't act now, then someone else would leave their footprints there first. Yeah, gotta be quick about this. Faster, faster, much faster. The population continued to grow and time ruthlessly slipped away. Then Thanos wiped out half of all life in the universe. Dick. Only a handful would be the vanguard of it all. Not a day went by where I didn't ponder what I could see. It would be a new frontier where familiar places, customs, and the past would not exist. A frontier where every small movement I made would become part of history. The footprints of the first humans on the moon could still be found preserved in the Sea of Tranquility Memorial Hall. There's already a memorial? Oh, shit. Those footprints told uncountable tales. Footprints left in the sand measuring just shy of 30 inches. Wait, just 30 inches? Do you mean the footprint was 30 inches long? I don't think that's true. Even so, they were amazing footprints that sent shivers down my spine. Body's aching all the time. Okay, we're not gonna get into Bohemian Rhapsody here. Are we gonna talk about that giant city in the background there, or not? No? Okay, sure. Do we at least get cute girls? It is a visual novel. With a click, my mobile PC turned on. Okay. Sure, your mobile PC. I awoke to the whirring of the hard drive. What year is it? Since I had fallen asleep, curled up in my chair while clutching my PC, it was difficult to get my body to move. I know that feeling. My body felt so stiff, I was sure that a careless motion would break something. Even so, I rather enjoyed the sensation of slowly stretching out my limbs from this cramped position after waking up. It made me feel alive and truly let me know I was awake. I willed my arms to move, then my legs. Although hardly efficient, this was how I chose to do things, and what happened when I woke up every morning. It was a satisfying action, and one I never had the chance to savor before I left home. On top of the table, I left my rather crude diode lamp on, and a coarse layer of fat had formed on the surface of the leftover coffee in my dirty cup. You might want to get that clean. The dirty coffee is no joke, alright? Get better coffee, fucker! Besides, my cup was a half-eaten chocolate bar, which I reached for and crammed into my mouth. You need to, like, get better habits going, buddy. I swallowed the unpleasantly sweet chunk as the PC finished booting up. At that moment, my brain went to work as I verified that I had my wallet, memory cards, and bag on me, that none of it had been stolen while I was asleep. It appeared that I had survived the previous night. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. However, in order for me to survive today, I would have to make some money. Oh, shit. It had been 3 months and 12 days since I left home. Telling myself that I wasn't just some well-to-do kid pretending to be a ruffian, I flipped open the organic display. This is some really jamming music here. I was staying at a cheap net cafe. Well, like, what can you do, man? It was a good for nothing establishment that leached Wi-Fi from another shop, and its customers were equally questionable quality. How does an internet cafe leach Wi-Fi from another shop? It can't a fine morning, isn't it? I wouldn't know. I haven't seen the sun in 15 years. Love the afro, by the way. As I left the booth to go wash my face, an unkempt clerk greeted me as he played a game at the counter. I figured he wasn't so much being friendly as much as he was making sure he knew he was watching me. Sure, I knew he was watching me. The lovely sound of a dog barking at nothing. Shut up! The only entrance and exits were next to the counter, and off to the side on the wall were the words, "Everyone pays, no freeloaders." Yeah, okay. Even though, wait a second, is that a... Okay, kind of retro, but sure. Even though this sad excuse for a building was built in a sewage canal. Really? How poor are we at this current moment, if I may ask? The only thing that concerned me when I left home was finding a place to sleep. Though I had some money, I couldn't really change my appearance. A fine morning? I'm not fond of your sarcasm, Earth Dog. The clerk's face twisted into a smile at my retort. Oh, it is unfortunate to not know what a real morning looks like, since the weather here is just a computer program. Crap, are we in the Matrix? He said that lightly as he returned his gaze to his game. He's playing God of War, guys! God of War! It's very important. You seem to be from Earth. Though I wondered if he came to the moon as unskilled labor, got fired, and ended up as an outcast of some sort. So we're on the moon, and we're hostile towards immigrants from Earth. Word 'em up! Why don't you head back to Earth then? At my words, he turned briefly to glance at me and laughed sarcastically. Things are a bit better here than down there anyhow. That's how he responded. Moon scum. Earth scum! Do we call Mars scum Mars scum? And the people on Mars are exactly like the guys in our Surviving Mars series. Like, towards the end, they go full Martian, okay? Towards the end of that playthrough, there are no more shuttles from Earth. It's amazing! So they're just like, Mars for Martians! We are Mars! Mars Eternum! Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was right! Without responding, I went to the washroom. Yes, a washroom? My name's Yoshiharu Kaoru. Okay, we're gonna have a problem, Mr. Yoshiharu. Can I just call you Yoshiharu? I'm just gonna call you Yoshiharu. I was born and raised in this looter city, so I was genuine moon scum. I returned to my booth, entered my password, and booted up the tool application on my computer. A welcome screen, whose only good point was its friendliness, was followed by a merciless and desolate landscape, much akin to the surface of the moon. Countless lines of word flickered on the screen. I imagined it's the kind of effect you'd get if you took a picture of the undeveloped part of the moon's surface with a low-res camera. Geez, the people at Apollo didn't even use low-res cameras. The screen showed a session of the Lunar Stock Exchange. This was the kind of place for moon scum like me to make a living. I'll get rich without needing to break a sweat. Knowing the guy that wrote this game? Sure, buddy. I didn't have enough time to earn an honest living. I took a deep breath and went about business. And this would be our protagonist himself. Downward revision for the first fiscal quarter of CK Bio. Possibly an investigation into Emerald Industries over suspicions of collusion. Regarding inflation, the board of directors of the Lunar Council, but... Oh god! We need to learn some economics for this game! Which would make sense for a game called World End Economica. With one eye on the stream of news, I focused on managing 220 stocks, picking up those with large price fluctuations. Should have invested in crypto. Actually, Alexa, what's the current value of Bitcoin?
One Bitcoin is worth $4,330, down 5.5% over the last 24 hours.
For those of you who don't know, we're in the middle of the Bitcoin crash, and it's the greatest time to be alive. Oh, seriously, all of you people who invested in Bitcoin, enjoy this, fuckers! For instance, if one stock had moved 10% on the previous day and another had moved on 1%, there was probably a high chance that the stock that moved 10% could move by 1% today. How the fuck do you figure that? I would trade it on that notion alone. Within the turbulent up and down movement of the price, I could extract some profit, which is what I occupied myself with between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. lunar time. How long is lunar time? Is that like Earth time? The The moon is in tidal locked orbit. It spins to the point where we're always seeing the same face of the moon. Between those hours, the only things that went into my mouth were food that I could eat one-handed and drinks. So you're like this really hardcore guy, but instead of hacking your stock market. I mean, yeah, if you go into economics, might as well use it. To be honest, I'd be so engrossed in trading that breaks were uncommon. Even if I had the free time to take a break, I'd rather use it to look at my screen to track price fluctuations and do some trades. After all, a difference of a few minutes when making the call to buy or sell could easily make the difference between gaining or losing 1 or 2%. You're like those two fuckers in Mass Effect 2 on, that one planet. I haven't played in a while, where they're just like, 25! Sell it 25! Or some shit like that. My war chest was 72,000 mools. That's a word that you made up. Congratulations, you made up another word. 1% of that came out to 700 mools. A store clerk here would make 7 mools an hour at best. This was a place where a public school teacher's monthly salary was 1,200 mools. So I could make it in a few minutes what they make in a month. I'm gonna go get a job at the stock market now. I hope you guys don't mind. Of course, over the course of a day's trading, some people would win and others would lose. But I was on the winning streak of all streaks, and before I knew it, my seed money of 1,000 mools had ballooned to 72 times that. Okay, then why are you hanging out in this dump? Get an apartment at this rate. The one and only time I did honest, hard labor in my life was to build that seed money. Okay? Since then, I'd been building my assets through these trades. Well, the gains were a little less than what they used to be. The greater your assets grew, the faster they grew, so it didn't worry me. It'd be what they call a snowball effect. I'd never seen snow before, but I'd seen videos of Earth before, and thus was familiar with it. I had decided that I was going to make even more money, and then live in the center of this lunar city. It's a place where tons of ridiculously smart people were gathered. It's said that 70% of the world's wealth was held by the people there. The 1%! They're back, and they're on the moon! I'd live it up there, and then... The back of my head was high on these kinds of delusions as I performed trade after trade like a man possessed. That's why it took me a while to notice. I finally did after I got smacked on the head. Yo, kid. I turned around to see that clerk from before standing in front of the booth's open door. What, you want money? Since when does this place become prepay? Or what? Was it something else? Was making money not allowed here? What do you want? I'm busy. As I glared at him, the overly skinny, bleary-eyed clerk let out a tired sigh. That's your reply. I came to tell you that the police are on their way to gather up street urchins and... Before the clerk finished his sentence, my PC had been closed and thrown into my bag. Hey, wait! The employee grabbed my shoulder as I tried to push him aside and exit the booth. Though he was thin, he was still muscular, strong enough to remind you that he was an adult. Still, I always kept a set amount of money in my breast pocket for times like this. I grabbed it and thrust it into his hands. Keep the change. I put on my hat, shouldered my bag, and ran down the narrow corridor, wondering what was going on in the booth. A bunch of guys who looked like they just They just mumble useless replies to any police questioning, peeked through the cracks from their booths, wondering if someone had been arrested. After sliding past the dirty wait, what? Is this that one time I stole a chocolate bar from, I bet it's the chocolate bar. There's a tree growing into that wall. Are we gonna talk about that? No? Okay. After sliding past the dirty counter, I made it to the store's even filthier exit. The chipped away paint and rust made the already cramped building feel even more claustrophobic. I ran straight down the hallway towards the open air. Gotta love his hair and scarf on the moon. There were stairs if I turned left at the end of the hall, but I had never had any plans to use them in the first place. Without a moment's hesitation, I kicked off the floor, jumping as high as I could. Passing over the concrete wall, my body flew over the first street. Low gravity on the moon. Because the cafe was on the 5th floor of the building, there was a heck of a view below me. I jumped towards the wall of the building opposite of me and then kicked off from that wall, aiming backwards towards the wall of the first building. He's doing the wall jumping technique! Once the sole of my foot hit the pipe on the wall, I jumped straight up with all my strength and resolve. Human genes had been fine-tuned for living on Earth over millions of years, so with some weight training, anyone could perform feats like these on the moon, where the gravity was lower. I'm gonna go kill the dog real quick. Be right back. Okay. The dog's dead. Okay. Anyway, jumping from wall to wall, I quickly reached the 14th floor of the building next door. Brilliant. I guess my heart rate did go up a bit. I glanced down to see a pair of blue uniformed policemen looking bored as they tapped their batons on their shoulders and climbed up the stairs. It seems the clerk wasn't playing a prank on me when he gave me that tip. Kid, what did you do? Should I be concerned? Is trading stocks illegal on the moon? I already paid my thanks to him when I handed him that money, though. But now, he should probably have already used the change from it to kick back with a store-bought beer. For a moment, I opened up my bag in the hallway and flipped open my PC screen. I ran off in the middle of a trade, and so my possession hadn't changed. I should be able to get at least a weak wireless connection out here. If I were lucky, prices would have risen and I'd be home free, but usually at times like this, figures. After hanging my head in disappointment, I closed my losing positions and called it a day. Nothing good comes from wandering around downtown in the middle of the day. This is the moon. There's got old-timey lanterns hanging there. Should I be concerned for moon technology? After jumping from one building to the next to get that parkour, I decided to walk down a deserted hallway towards my favorite Chinese restaurant. It was the time of day when most people my age would be at school, so walking around carelessly would get you chased down by the cops before you knew it. Until you turned 18, the legal age here, it was mandatory that you belonged to some sort of educational institution. Some people would say that this was a good thing, while others grumbled something about government-funded programs. Wait, really? That's mandatory? So, like, if I get kept behind a couple grades at 18, you can just drop out? Nice. I fell into neither camp. My way of dealing with systems I didn't like was to quietly escape them, not to loudly criticize them. That's a bad way of looking at it. On that note, this area, with all of its complicated passages and extreme elevation changes, it's not odd to see that on the 7th floor of the one building there's the basement of another, was convenient for people like me. Not to mention the overgrown vegetation here, and that acted as good cover. These plants weren't originally included in the city plans, but had leaked out of one of the many lunar laboratories when they were messing with their genes. Damn you, science! Science most foul! Moon science! On the moon! Supposedly, these are a ton of factors that express themselves differently depending on the environment, so a lot of plants and animals started acting strangely as soon as they were brought to the moon. Well, yeah, I want to see a dog try to walk on the moon. Come on. The first internet video of a dog trying to walk on the moon! Who doesn't think that will be the greatest thing ever? There were even people saying that life forms on Earth could have originated from outer space and brought to Earth via the moon. Those people are stupid. They belong to the Flat Moon Society. Yes, there's the Flat Moon Society. Some of these plants grew so well on the moon's inorganic matter that you might wonder if they'd been around here for 1 million years. So wait, you just stuck it in the regolith? Does that work? I don't think so. Of course, it wasn't as if these plants were free from the laws of physics. Nitrogen and other nutrients from them were often brought over from Earth. So I hadn't heard about any worries that the surface of the moon would be taken over by the greenery. So wait, are there plants outside right now? Because I would like to know. This applied to more than just plants. As for the humans here, it didn't matter how ultra-elite the tanks came to energize the lunar colony and its industries. Life here just wasn't sustainable without sending a lot of things over from Earth. Yeah, but then you stop sending things from Earth, and you declare your independence, and you declare war on Earth. You know why? Because Earth deserves it! According to the government's statements, even if the orbital elevator were to stop moving today, there wasn't enough biomass here to create an enclosed recycling-based environment. We have an orbital elevator? We should open with that. In other words, we'd be able to eat food, crap it out, then use that crap to grow more food to eat, and so on. They'd be able to make a ton of electricity with solar panels, while collecting direct sunlight to use as a super hot source of heat, so maybe they're right. I mean, people even say that Earth was in more danger environmentally since they're still relying on oil and nuclear power. Yes! Yes! Filthy Earth creatures! Filthy! There's still oil on Earth? I didn't know who was right. No, the moon is right! Whatever the case, I had dreams, and if it meant making my dreams come true, I didn't care if I was on Earth or on the moon. After all, my dream was to stand at the forefront of humanity. It's not happening. That's not happening. It'd be a place where you could only look forward and live by advancing onward. Who cared about what happened to the world behind you? I don't know. And if I couldn't make this dream come true, then there'd be no reason for me to live. Wow. Don't get suicidal on me, kid. Jesus. That was why, to put it logically, I'd never worried for a single bit about the moon's environment or whatever. What I worried about was how much money I made and how fast I reached my goals. While I was thinking about these things, I passed through the thickly vegetated tunnel towards high ground. Oh, lovely. We got Earth there in the background. It was a clear day, as it always was. On the other side of the translucent membrane, the visible half of the mist-covered Earth looked small. The sky over the lunar colony was wrapped in a see-through dome, and right beyond it was outer space. Space! So listen, I'm no expert, but I don't think the solar panels are supposed to be facing downward. Gravity was weak on the moon, so you couldn't naturally keep large amounts of gases stored up on the surface. Is that how it works? Also, well, apparently each 24-hour day on Earth has a morning, afternoon, and night, which was followed by the next day being another morning. The moon alternated between 2 week days and 2 week nights. Huh. Okay. That's confusing and concerning. However, the human body cycle was set differently thanks to tens of thousands of years of living on Earth. Because most of the people living on the moon were immigrants from Earth, its dome was adjusted to give off light in an Earth-like way. It even had sprinklers attached to it so that it would rain. Why would you do this? One of the reasons people want to go to space is so that they don't have to deal with rain! However, I'd only seen such things like downpours and thunderstorms in videos. While it rained here, it was always just a drizzle. Strong winds never blew here. The only winds felt here was the slow, cooling movement of the atmosphere due to centrifugal and Coriolis forces, as well as the gentle breeze of the air inside the dome being mechanically circulated. Jesus goddamn Christ, the guy got the science down on this biz. I strayed from the street onto a grass-covered cliff and jumped upward with a grunt. I kicked off a tree branch and rotated my body to land on the top of the tunnel. This was a box seat where you could look down on the greener parts of the city. Hey, it looks relatively normal, all things considered. I grabbed some beef jerky out of my bag and bit into it. Beef jerky. Anyway, according to the guys who came from Earth, this wasn't at all close to the real thing, but it's the only beef jerky I knew. There were a number of cities on the moon. The one I lived in was the very first city to be created, and I could get a clear view of the whole thing from here. The spot in front of me where pointed skyscrapers sprung upward, one after the other, was called Newton City, named after... I was gonna try and come up with something funny, but it's probably named after Sir Isaac Newton. It wasn't like the entry here was regulated, however, it had the feel of a special zone where only certain people could enter. Since it was full of giant corporate buildings, even public places like shopping malls and parks were overrun with police and city regulations. The 1%. Most wealth here was created in Newton City, and you could find famous tycoons with assets worth over 10 billion mools all over the place. They named their currency mools! If you had that much wealth, you undoubtedly be able to be on the forefront when humanity took its next step. Money could make just about any desire you might have in this world come true. You're making me depressed! In this world, money ruled all. Like a photograph of the moment a drop of liquid hit the pool of water, a group of skyscrapers stood in the dead center of Newton City, while the buildings around that were suddenly much shorter. The area was where middle-class people worked in Newton City. The area where middle-class people who worked in Newton City lived was called Green City, or the White Belt. It was a place full of people who loved words like high society and refinement. The 1%. The kind of people who claimed to care about the grace and harmony, but were really full of nothing but pride and obsessions with upward mobility. Whether I went there, I felt sick seeing the sterilized rows of small, nicely manufactured lawns and white-walled buildings. There wasn't a single piece of garbage on the streets, and the only plants around here were domesticated trees on the roadside. After that, the buildings in the area around Green City got taller again, but it was a complete jumble. There, power lines dangled messily onto the streets, and vulgar neon signs lit the area, painting the whole place with a feel of squalor. The area was called the Outer Sections. And while technically they had all been numbered from 1 to 8, there was no real point. If you considered Newton City the center of everything, the north was full of factories. Oh, good. Let's pollute the moon now. There you can find silicon dioxide dissolution factories, fertilizer synthesis factories, automated plantations, and so on. So it's mostly farming. I thought I killed that dog. On the east side was a village where I lived. The area was notorious for its hard-nosed residents. Is there supposed to be sound right now? 'Cause I'm not hearing any. No. We're just setting up the setting. You could also find settlements of old-timers, whom you might call artisans in the area, which made for a countless number of small workshops. Most people didn't have the luxury of being able to do something like transport wooden furniture via orbital elevator, and land was expensive on the moon, so the houses of Green City were small. As a result, handmade furniture created with the size and shape of your house in mind was far more popular than ready-made furniture. Suck it, big box companies. I was told that my parents were aiming to live together with plants brought from Earth in exchange for making furniture out of wood. Even though factories existed that used the best scientific advances to maximize harvest rates as much as physically possible, they still grew plants by hand for some reason. That's because some people can't give up the past. They seemed to at least have their customs, but didn't see a single enjoyable thing about being covered in dirt. It just made me wonder why they even came to the moon in the first place. This wasn't a place for stuff like that. The moon was supposed to be a place where you directed your gaze to the top of the inorganic buildings that line Newton City. And if I shifted my eyes to the left, I saw an area haunted by those who couldn't keep up in that struggle. So you're living on the moon, and there is moon poverty on the moon. How did we let this happen? Here, when buildings started rusting, no one would bother to repaint them. It had been nicknamed the Red Valley. God damn it, moon. The reason it was called a valley was because when Newton City was originally built on the flat crater floor, all of the low-income earners made the Rocky Mountains surrounding the city their home. And by Rocky Mountains, I don't quite mean something like the harsh mountains environments you might find on Earth. It was actually closer to what you might call highlands. Okay, sure, gotcha. As a result, the rock was chipped away to increase the surface area. Like a river of eroding hills, and many structures could be built in a tight area by terracing the slopes. Furthermore, more space was secured by digging caves into the rocky stretches. It was clearly evident that doing this over and over made for a mess of the city. Not much more than a decade has passed since the city's establishment, and it had already become such a devilish haunt. Wait, so it's been a little over 10 years, and and Moon Poverty has already said it. God damn it, Moon! Ah! What's wrong with you? But what the? Oh, okay, so that's the scrolling. Anyway, it had already become such a devilish thought that you wouldn't blame the local government if they just threw up their hands and gave up. As for me, I like the Red Valley with its level of squalor. Well, it was true that people living there could be called outcasts and failures. The place was irresponsible in a good way, and that put me at ease. Of course, I had no intentions of becoming the 20% that live there. The 20%. And finally, the area around where I was right now was called the 6th Outer Section. It was not as degenerate as the Red Valley, but it was not quite as productive as the east side of town. This area didn't have a nickname yet, and its aspects oozed out at every turn. While the buildings were dirty and worn out, it was dotted with small companies who dreamed of Newton City and the occasional decent-looking house, so it wasn't the worst place to live. Okay, so it's not that bad, I guess. And then everything exploded, I guess. I stood up, hopped back down to the street, and jogged off. Ooh, fresh moon, fresh store. The roads were paved with neatly shaved limestone rocks, all imported from Earth. It was chipped and cracked here and there, but no one ever tried to patch it. The rough dirt of the moon had piled up in its recesses. Waterways were occasionally visible, and in them you could see clear running water, as well as fish swimming. While hydrogen was available on the moon, there was no water, so once hydrogen has been synthesized into water, it was made sure that every drop remained circulating within the dome. The waterway's final destination was the giant water processing plant under Newton City. In other words, everything was designed to gather in the center of the mortar-shaped city, whether it's people, water, or wealth. From there, everything was disseminated. I got that one. After crossing the intricate waterways and bridges, I passed through a narrow alley and reached my destination. It was called the Lunar Chinese Restaurant. Creative, amazing, and original name. I'm gonna kill this dog. It was run by a Chinese couple with a strong spirit of enterprise who emigrated to the moon. I could sit down here from early afternoon to whenever, and they wouldn't say a word. However, the elderly wife's health had been fading recently, and the woman who sometimes worked at the restaurant in their place was a bit of a pain. While I prayed that she wouldn't be there today, it was in vain, especially on an unlucky day already full of policemen and stock losses. Damn. Ah, girls! Moon girls! On the moon! Finally, we've reached the promised land. God! We spent this entire episode establishing the plot! Not even the plot, the setting! God damn, okay. I'm gonna leave it off here because I have other things I need to get done tonight. That's World End Economica, ladies and gentlemen. It's gonna be an interesting one. Your homework today is to go learn some economics. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Just gonna go ahead and save right here. Yes, that is, way to date the video right there.